Salute to all the real ones out there. It's your boy Mike coming at you again with another video. Yo, y'all like the content I've been dropping? Direction on my channel was headed in. I need you to like, comment, subscribe. Share my videos with anybody else you think may benefit from them, alright? Now, today's topic is going to be called the seven Hermetic Principles, okay? And if you think about the word Hermetic, of course, it's linked to Hermes. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you a quick breakdown on the Hermetic Principles, the history of it, and then I'm going to lay down all seven and how you can apply them to actually see success in your life. So Hermes was the Greek god of herds and flocks, travelers and hospitality, roads and trade, thievery and cunning, heralds and diplomacy, language and writing, athletic contests, and gymnasiums. Also astronomy and astrology. Okay? All of the information that I'm talking about, y'all can find in the description box below. Just wanted to throw you that disclaimer. Hermes was also considered to be the personal messenger of Zeus, aka King of the Gods, and the guide of the dead who led souls into the underworld. So, if y'all ever heard like Hermes, there's a packaging service. If you look, like it always shows either a wheel or a wing attached. Okay. The predecessor of Hermes was actually the Egyptian god called Thoth. All right, and Thoth was of course Egyptian, or Kemetian for all my people who recognize Egypt, was actually called Kemet. He was the god of the moon, sacred texts, mathematics, the sciences, master of knowledge, and patron of scribes. He was the messenger and recorder of deities and was responsible for keeping an account of all verdicts of heart-weighing ceremonies, which determined whether a spirit could continue into the afterlife. Okay, so this is basically old knowledge, and it's considered to be occult knowledge. Occult, the word meaning hidden. So, the seven principles are the foundation of Hermeticism, a branch of spiritual philosophy dating back as early as the 1st century AD. It's outlined by author Hermes, and I'm going to try to say his name correctly, but it's Trismegistus. All right, and he was believed to have written the Emerald Tablet, which of course it's not. Before we even go further, what I want to go ahead and throw the disclaimer out about is how a lot of history and knowledge that we hear about, it always conveniently goes back to ancient Greek or 1st century AD. But pyramids and things like that we see that still stand the test of time are literally 10,000 years old, 6,000 years old. Some stuff dating back even further than that. The oldest, let's say, skeleton that was found was hundreds of thousands of years old. They use carbon dating to figure that out. But every single time we learn about something interesting like the seven Hermetic Principles, like they only give it credit to a certain branch of culture. I'm not even going to, harp on it, but don't you find that funny? Nothing goes back to Africa. Nothing goes back to like ancient African teachings, ancient African spirituality. It's always copied, repasted, rebranded, and then given it to you as if it was just only 2,000 years ago that this knowledge came about. But that's horse crap. Anyway, talking about he wrote the Emerald Tablet. No, he didn't. But anyway, Hermes was considered a master of the universe, lived for thousands of years, and Hermetic principles were passed down via word of mouth until the early 20th century when the teachings were compiled into a book called the Kybalion. Now, all of this stuff that now I'm about to jump into, as far as, let's say, the seven Hermetic Principles, I did read this book, recommended from my boy Lawrence Thomas. Shout out to you, salute to you as well. He's one of the realest supporters that I've had from day one, and I appreciate him for throwing that book as a recommendation. Read it pretty much in like a few days, and I found it to be very, very powerful, even though it was a short read. Okay, so the Kybalion is basically considered to be the occult source of wisdom, separate from religion, but powerful nonetheless. Okay, now, what we're going to do is we're going to talk about each one of the seven principles and give like an example within, and also how you can apply this to your life so that you can overcome the nature of reality by understanding the laws and playing them against each other. Okay, so the first one of the principles of Hermetic Principles is called mentalism. Okay, mentalism. Basically, the idea here is that manifestation of anything in this physical world all starts with mental projection first. Uh, the idea that also thoughts shape reality, that God is consciousness, and that all starts with the mind. So, even when you just do a quick look around your room, wherever you are, notice that everything that is around you started at first as somebody's thought before it became a actual thing. The table that's sitting right here, the computer that I'm talking into, the YouTube platform that I'm later gonna upload this video to, the clothes that I'm wearing, the watch that I'm wearing, everything started out as somebody sitting, contemplating, thinking, and coming up with some type of way to bring it into physical reality, okay? So the way that you basically get power over the first principle, or ways that you can use the first principle to help you manifest things in your reality, is through meditation and visualization. All right. Anybody who's been following my channel, you already know how many times I've referenced the idea that your thoughts create your reality. Even the video that I made called personality equals personal reality. All of that stuff is contained within there. I hadn't even read that book yet, but I can already see how the progress that I've made in my life, or some of the content that I've dropped on my channel, is all going along with this first law of mentalism within the Hermetic Principles, okay? The second one is going to be correspondence. So the idea here is as above, so below. You guys might have heard this already when people talk about Aleister Crowley and the shirt that Jay-Z was wearing, do what thou wilt. And whenever people talk about Lucifer as a whole, you know, I'm not going to get heavy into it, but that saying, as above, so below, you definitely heard before. The idea here is that there are many planes of existence, and the higher is always connected to the lower. Your reality is a mirror of your consciousness. So the underlying theme on how you can use the principle of correspondence to actually gain traction in whatever you're looking to manifest in your life is to always try to live in your higher self. Okay? I'll give you a clear example of how that comes into play. Have you guys ever heard that saying that an idle mind is the devil's playground? An idle mind is the devil's playground. This basically is whenever you're sitting around bored, aimless, you don't have any type of objective that you want to accomplish. This is going to be when the little voice in your head is going to mention that you should do some nonsense. You know, the little voice in your head that says, "Hey man, like you should fulfill some type of pleasure. You should seek some adventure. You should go for a thrill." Even though your higher self knows, yo man, you got things that you wanted to knock out. You have a list of goals that you still have yet to put the check next to. Everybody has the same 24 hours in a day, but the law of correspondence, if you leave them with your higher self, will have you actually going towards and knocking out all the objectives that you know you need to take care of. But as above, so below. If you go with your lower nature, you're going to waste day after day procrastinating. You know what I mean? So the whole world is nothing more than a mirror of what's going on in your head, how your wheels are turning. So the idea here, the higher you, let's say, try to reach your higher self, or let me change my wording. The more you're in alignment with your higher goals and principles, the more your reality will begin to reflect that. Also, the inverse, the more you're actually in line with your lower nature, only chasing pleasure and not having discipline, avoiding pain, and being very, very solipsistic, your whole world and environment will reflect that. The third principle is vibration, okay? The idea being here that nothing rests. Everything moves and vibrates. Hence, vibes. You ever been around somebody and you don't even have to know this person. You don't even need to have an in-depth conversation. You can just tell that whatever frequency that they're on is not harmonious with yours. So there's some type of disconnect, and you just maybe even feel the need to physically remove yourself from this person's presence. Sensing energy in people, animals, things, and environments. I just touched on that. But even I feel animals are a very good gauge to see where a person is. How many times did I reference in my videos that when I was in Kuwait and I was over here pulling security, a cat would just come out of nowhere. Now, this is a cat that, of course, everybody has seen before. But this isn't, him approaching me. This wasn't because I was about to give him something or that I paid any special attention or that I was trying to call him over there. Sometimes I would just literally just be sitting there reading a book. And the cat would perch up, like within petting distance, like right there. And just chill. I mean, for a good 20-minute session as I'm just tearing into this book. Wouldn't bother me. Would maybe purr a little bit. I think it's pretty safe to say that the cat that's chilling right there is obviously picking up on my vibe. And he feels safe and comfortable to approach and maybe even take a nap right there. You know what I mean? So that's a good example. The way that you basically utilize this principle to ascend in life is to do and think in high vibrations. Okay? I've already talked about this in other videos. You have positive energy, you have negative energy, and then in the middle you have neutrality. Another way of looking at it, you have an optimist, you have a pessimist, and in the middle you have a person who's a realist. Even with just that small example, think of somebody in your head that fits either category. Maybe I'm tripping, but I'm pretty confident that the optimist is usually outperforming the other two. And the reason being is that positive energy is always going to trump neutral or negative energy. Okay? The fourth principle is polarity. The idea here being everything is dual and has an opposite. Opposite things are the same, just with varying degrees. All right, so think about how everything in nature exists in pairs. Left, right, up, down. Fat, skinny. Rich, poor. Another good example is going to be hot and cold. Because if you think about it, they're the same thing. Right? Cold is considered to be the absence of heat. Heat is considered to be the absence of cold. But both of them are temperature. And depending on where you are on a subjective scale, one person will be saying, man, it's hot in here. The next person will be saying, oh, it feels great in here. I like the temperature. The next person will be saying, it's cold in here. But at the end of the day, they're just varying degrees. But it's still the same thing, temperature, right? The idea on how you can basically use the principle of polarity to gain traction in life is going to be shift your perspectives to change lower emotions into higher ones. All right. Basically, always try to see the beauty or the silver lining of every single, especially problem that you face. Because it's easy for us to get overwhelmed. It's easy for us to be driving in traffic, see somebody behind us that's, let's say, tailgating, and then get aggressive and be like, nah, I'm going to stay right here. You know what I mean? And now you over here pushing yourself into lower nature. It goes along with the first three. You over here now causing more of a problem. You might even be a hazard on the road. And your pride is keeping you from just moving over. You know what I mean? Resonating with the higher self, you're going to understand. Maybe this person's in a rush. Maybe they're late for a meeting. Maybe they, let's say, got caught way back there in traffic and they're trying to make up for lost time. Whoever gives a damn why the hell this person is being annoying like that. But don't let it bother you and get you out of your frame. Just pull over to the right real quick, let dude pass, and then get back over and continue driving and doing your thing. I mean, it's really not going to affect you, right? So understand the principle of polarity in this case. Another thing is going to be, or the fifth principle is going to be rhythm. So the idea here is that everything flows in and out. It has its tides, and everything rises and falls. What goes up basically must come down. A pendulum swing. Think about it. If it swings this far right, it has to swing this far left. Okay? Understand the ebbs and flows. So basically, if you want to use this principle, you need to transcend and not let your emotions pull you to either extreme. The idea here is just trying to stay somewhat balanced because you understand that there is an inevitability that everything that rises up has to have some type of fall. Everything that, let's say, goes bad has to eventually give you a good outcome. Think of, let's say, a forest. A huge fire takes over the whole forest. It's in a blaze of glory. Everybody's standing back in awe at how powerful nature is and how destructive it can be at times, right? But fast forward 100 years without anybody, let's say, involving themselves in that process. A whole new green forest is now starting to bloom from the ashes of the old that burned itself down. Everything that has good in it has a little bit of bad. Everything that's bad has a little bit of good. And there's always going to be a flowing, rhythmic nature of everything we experience in life. So basically, don't get caught up on being too happy, too excited. Don't get caught up on being too depressed, too sad. Because eventually, it's going to flow to the other side anyway. So it's best to have some type of equilibrium. Sixth principle is going to be of cause and effect. No such thing as chance is the idea here. All things happen for a reason, even when that reason goes undetected. Nothing escapes this law. So if you guys think about it, how many times has something happened in your life where when it happened in that very moment, you felt like your whole world was falling apart? Then fast forward to the future. You done already got past it. You transcended the chaos that it was entailed. You're now in a better situation. You can now reflect back on what happened right there and take the gems of wisdom and actually appreciate it in a way that you couldn't when you were right in the middle of it. So the idea is to take action to get the desired effect. Be proactive over reactive. So every single cause has an effect. Even Newton talks about that, right? So case in point, I'm going to give you a real live example. I'm about to jump into a new industry. If it's up to me, everything will get taken care of and it will be a smooth transition, right? But along the way, I'm getting hiccups. I'm having people tell me, you can't do that. That program is not accepted. You need to go this route instead of that route. You know what I mean? I'm getting a lot of people that are throwing roadblocks in my path to keep me from actually lining myself up with the opportunity that I see best fit. Being proactive means I'm finding ways around those roadblocks. I'm either going to go through the roadblock, under it, around it, over top of it. Either way, I'm going to reach my aim. But this is a good example of what I'm talking about when you think about this principle. For every cause, there's an equal and opposite effect. So try your best to get your goals accomplished regardless of what comes in your path, because at the end, it's always going to work in your favor if you keep this in mind. Last but not least, you have the law or the principle of gender. Okay, the idea here is that everything has masculine and feminine qualities. You have left and right brain. Left being like a left brain being like analytical, problem solving, all dealing with like logic. You have the right side being creative, dealing with intuition. All right, and everything is basically artistic and colorful. So the idea on how to master the principle of gender, even if you look at yin and yang, you have let's say the white side that represents masculinity and it has a small dot of femininity in there. And then on the opposite, you have the black side with the small dot of masculinity in it. All right. The idea is that you want to be right in the middle. Okay. Mastering both your feminine and lower, your feminine and masculine principles. So apply both of, let's say, the left and right brain for the maximum benefit and achieve balance between both sides of yourself. Okay, so those are the 7 Hermetic Principles. I hope y'all got something out of it. I want you to like, comment, subscribe, and I'll holler at you on the next one.